to Michael.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I guess I can turn off way from
General. It's so funny because.
Well, thank you guys for coming. So happy to kick off 2016 for AMMO. This is really exciting. Want to thank, well, actually, before I start thanking and then introducing our amazing speaker, go ahead.
Aren't you sick of me yet? You spent like 2 days with me.
Not sick of you at all.
Yeah.
But first I want to...
Not yet. She's got to pass the test first.
I'd like to give Jamie Turner a chance to come up and tell everybody really quickly about Mobile X.
Sales pitch.
Brace yourself.
He will do a better job, but what you really need to know is our fantastic speaker will be the keynote at Mobile X.
One of them. Yeah.
That's one of them. So, Jamie, please.
Cool. How many people in here have been to a conference before? Raise your hand. Probably everybody. Go ahead. How many people have felt like the conference was boring and not worth the money that you spent on it?
Look, she's jumping up and down. Me.
Conference, I have to be expected.
All right.
We are doing an unconference called Mobile X Festival. It's an unconference for businesses that want to use mobile to grow their sales and revenues. We have Coca-Cola, CNN, E&J Gallo, Microsoft, Google, AOL, a ton of businesses involved. They are all interested in it because A, they want to talk and learn about mobile and how to use mobile to grow sales and revenues. And B, they're as sick and tired as the rest of us are about this standard opportunity where you go in, you listen to people speak, you get bored, you get tired, you walk out of the conference and don't really have it. So what we did is we said we're going to reinvent the conference, and it's basically a lot of interesting activities. We will have speeches, we will still have panels, but in addition to those, we're going to have virtual reality pods, we're going to have food trucks, we're going to have speed networking, we're going to have a Mobile X charity lab where you're going to be able to create a real mobile campaign for a real charity that's actually going to run live there. Tons of great stuff going on. So it's called Mobile X Festival.
Wine from Gallo.
Wine from Gallo, absolutely. Gallo's going to be there.
Yeah.
Wine from Gallo, and which Michael introduced us to. It's mobilexfestival.com. Next Thursday night, last thing I'll say and then I'll get off the stage. Next Thursday night, we're doing something called the Mobile X Mixer. It's at the ATV. mobilexfestival.com/mixer. You can sign up, but sign up fast because tickets have gone like that. Free wine, free beer, the whole 9 yards, but we're almost out of tickets for that. So if you want to join us there next week, join us. And otherwise, I will see you at Mobile X Festival, which also, by the way, is partly sponsored by Stable Kernel. So thank you very much.
And when might it
When
be?
is it?
It is in May 12th. May 11th and 12th. Michael's going to do a 3-hour session on May 11th, and then May 12th is the actual festival. So just Google mobilexfestival.com and you'll see it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Now, we're super excited about Mobile X, so it's going to be a
You
great
can
time.
applaud. Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. I'm all about the applause.
All right, so before
Not shy, are you?
Before I introduce Michael, I just want to say thank you so much to Kevin and Vert for having us here. We've not been to Vert before, but I want to give Kevin an opportunity to welcome us to this fantastic space.
Yes, thank you.
Here,
Thank
here.
you for the beer and the wine and the food.
Yes, you bet. And the best part about this space and this setup is that any stragglers that come in are right here, so you can thoroughly embarrass them. No, you made it just in time. So
And you can't leave either.
And
That's
you can't,
the other
yeah,
thing.
right. You gotta sneak out,
So-
and it's a whole. You're just staring at Michael, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So thanks for coming out. Happy to have you guys. We got way too much food, so eat more of it. And yeah, and if you ever need some digital marketing assistance, we're a mobile first, very I'll call it very dangerous on social. We're kind of a mobile social integration agency. We do a lot of work with restaurants, with food service, a lot of location-based stuff, ton of paid media. So we've got about 20 folks in this space that make it happen. So let us know. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
And enjoy.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Bert. All right.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Michael has been gracious to give us his time this evening. He is a very sought-after speaker. I met Michael about 3-ish years ago, 4 years ago. It feels like a moment, and not long enough. So Michael is one of probably, I would say, the top 5 mobile marketers in the world. He wrote Mobile Marketing for Dummies. He was president of the MMA, the Mobile Marketing Association in North America. His company mCordis standing for Put Mobile at the Heart of Marketing. He just really understands this space unlike no other. He came from had a tech startup, probably, how many years ago? I don't know.
It started in 2004. And so
2000.
when we started, 300 million text messages were sent in the May of 2003, actually, when we started the company.
Yeah.
So as we're over 2 billion a day now, so it's a little different from when we started the company.
Nobody understands mobile like Michael Becker, and I just sign up for his newsletter, read every piece of content he puts out. You will be better, smarter, sexier for it.
And you spent 2 days in our class.
I did. I just spent 2 days of it in his class, and I'm not ready to blow my brains out. And I feel so much smarter.
So we founded the world's first professional qualification in
Yeah.
mobile marketing. So you can take our course and become a professionally qualified mobile marketer.
Yeah, it's internationally recognized.
Yeah.
So without further ado, thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Sarah,
Oh.
don't forget to tell them about the live stream.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, live stream. Yeah, we're
really
live
can't-
people.
You can't really tell someone like me to remember 4 things. So tonight, for the very first time, we are live streaming. Ground Floor Video is taking care of this for us. If you think about when you want to do some sort of live streaming event, you do not want to manage that in-house. You want a team like Ground Floor Production to do the video, to do this. See, you can be your too many
Good.
things to
You're
remember.
good.
But thank you so much, because this is awesome. You can share this video later with people who weren't able to be here. So, Rise of the Connected Marketer.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. You guys have a good day so far? Awesome. Well, who's here has seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Yeah? There's a scene in the show when he opens it up and he's like, we've got so little to do and so much time to do it in. And then he's like, reverse that. I've got tons of stuff I want to talk to you about, but I only have a few minutes. So I really kind of want to dig in, share these ideas, and hopefully over the next decade or so, we can explore and expand these concepts as they roll out together. We're really at a precipice for the fundamental changes, not just in business, but in society as a whole globally. And we really see that as this concept from our jobs as marketing, the rise of the connected marketer. And that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. But this is more than just marketing. This is about business. This is about society. This is about we as people living in this society and molding a society that we want to live in. So it's really about us taking responsibility and control over what we want to have. And the marketing is going to take a central function within that. So when we think about this, we consider this concept of the connected individual, and undoubtedly, we are all connected individuals. I mean, there are the numbers. You think about it, we're all having, everybody got a smartphone? Yeah? Yeah. So we all have the smartphone. We all have connected devices. And in fact, what's interesting about that, we hear the stories. You wake up in the morning and you look at your phone. You go to bed, you put your phone by your bed. But increasingly, I don't know if you've noticed, people are starting to wear sleep monitors. So we're even connected while we're sleeping now. Increasingly, we're starting to embed chips into our bodies to keep us connected. It's a wide range of activities as we're using these devices to collect and monitor and interact with ourselves throughout our daily activities. And when we're not connected, we get really nervous. And we go find that connection. We'll go out to, say, a Starbucks. What did you say, Max? We were just over across at the cafe.
That was quaint.
No, about being connected. Yeah, literally, his hands started to shake. I'm like, I don't have Wi-Fi here, and he needed to connected to my.
It was quaint. It was the first one.
Yeah.
Where are the girls?
Where are the girls? Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah. So, but literally, we were literally just sitting here, and I'm like, this really sucks. I can't get connected to Wi-Fi right now. And then he, had to siphon it off my phone so he could have that 20-minute hookup while we were there. Because we're connected at work, we're connected at home, we're connected in our daily lives. We interact. If we can't find it, we'll drop by the Starbucks to go get it. So when we think about that, it's really about connecting our digital selves with our physical selves. And more and increasingly, we are digital beings living in a physical world. And we're using these devices to manifest that relationship that we have with that world through our connected devices. Right now, at about 2016, industry analysts say that we, on average, all have about 3 connected devices. Our phone, our watch, our tablet, maybe it's a computer. If you start adding it up individually, it's probably a lot more. The other day, I added a Bitdefender firewall box to my home IP address. And I kid you not, I was actually surprised by that. Within 3 minutes, it detected 20 connected devices in my house. and started collecting them. And within an hour, I started getting notifications of malware and attacks on my home. So these attacks had been coming all the time. I just didn't know about it. It was very interesting to see what that connection means. By 2020, worldwide, that average connection is going to be about 10 devices and 140 sensors. So each one of us individually will have 10 connected devices associated with us and about 140 sensors. So think about that. Think about the data that gets collected about that, how all those different aspects happen. It's about combining our physical and digital world. And the younger we are, the more we're connected. What's the estimate? How many do you think the one-year-olds, what's the average number of one-year-olds that can use a tablet? What percentage of one-year-olds use a tablet right now?
100%.
Yeah, it's about 38%. The study's showing about 38% of one-year-olds can walk up and start using a tablet. Right? They're already connected. They're already using their devices. There's this expectation to be engaged and interacting. And for them, there's going to be little difference about being connected and being physical. It's all part of that world, and we're increasingly becoming to do this. And we're looking at this thing called the Internet of Things. And it's advancing more and more and more as our objects and our senses and everything becoming connected. So think about this too, like our car. The average car has somewhere between 250 to 500 sensors in it. And the seat in the car has a scale because it needs to know your weight so it can then communicate to the airbag. So if there is an accident, it knows what's to go off. And then increasing sensors, the steering wheels will actually have stress sensors in them and other health monitoring related activities. So your car is actually going to become a mobile health monitoring system, whether or not you know it or not. When we think about it, we're going to be never disconnected. So has anybody heard of the term 5G? Yeah, a couple of you? So it started out as 3G, now we're in that 4G world. And if you're on Verizon or some of the networks, you'll hear it as LTE, that's another version of it. By 2020, we're going to start seeing the introduction of 5G into the marketplace. What that is high bandwidth, always on, seamless connectivity. That will be connecting all of our services, all of our programs, bringing it all together. We will never be disconnected. We exist in this constant state of connectedness. And it's odd as it seems, we're going to grow up, and the children being born today will never know a world without that level of connection. And that's going to influence what our behaviors are, what our expectations are, and where we're going to go with society. And as we think through that as well, it's not just about our being connected to devices, using our phones, looking at our screens. It's also how we augment our world. Right now, we can pull out our phone and superimpose it and look through that screen and augment our world. And we're literally turning space and dimension from a marketing perspective into interactive media. By 2019, they say augmented reality is going to create over 1 billion new sellable media impressions that never existed before. Because space and time is literally becoming connected. I can pull up my phone, look through the thing, pull up the bar finder when I want to go get my Stella, and it's going to say there's one bar a block that way, there's another block 3 blocks that way, and I'll be able to find and get to that place and that location. I'll actually be able to turn space and time into interactive media.
Is that real?
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Because if you like Stella, it's got to be poured right. And they actually have the good bars go to a Stella pouring school, so that you get the right temperature, and it's a whole science. It's in art. But it's not just about augmenting that reality. It's also about providing virtual reality, being able to put on the glasses and actually immerse myself into a whole new environment, to be able to see different aspects of the world that one would never be able to see before. Fundamental shifts and changes in society and where we go from there. But this idea of being connected is not new. Anybody ever see Cheers, the show? Okay, how about Brady Bunch? So Alice would go down to Sam the butcher and say, "Hey, Sam," and Sam knew all the kids, and they knew the names, and they knew Alice's favorite cut of meat, and he knew her birthday. In fact, they ultimately got married, I think, at some point. So they got really connected at that point. But we've had one-to-one marketing and this idea of connecting people forever. And in fact, if you think about the importance of connectivity, we can all the way go back to really modern man. In 80 BC, when Cicero tells us, if you want to persuade me, you must think my thoughts, feel my feelings, and speak my words. It's about understanding me and having that personal relationship with me if you want to influence that. But what started to happen around the turn of the century? When Ford came out, and by the way, everyone, what was Ford's #1 innovation? Anybody know? Production line. Yeah, everyone says that, but guess what? That was his second best innovation. His #1 innovation is Ford was probably the best marketer of our time. because he actually went out and did market analysis, looked at the needs of the customer and the person, and realized people would buy a $500 car. How am I going to make a $500 car? I need a production line. And what I need to do is I need to build a production line, strip out all the personalization that I possibly can, and anybody can have a car as they want, and any car they want, as long as it's black. I can't provide any personalization. If I'm going to do economies of scale, if I'm going to get this utility out to everybody, it's got to be the same thing for everybody. We're all going to get the same thing. There is no personalization. We're going to mass produce, and what ended up happening in that time and century, and this comes from some Forrester research, that kind of 1900 and 1960 stage, we as business competed at scale, at manufacturing as much as we possibly could, as cheap as possible. Then, around 1960, it started to change. The basis of competition based on manufacturing changed. And what ended up happening is we switched and we started to compete on scale of distribution. And now that we know how to make this stuff, we're going to get it out to people. This is when the retail was born, being a mile away from all of our houses. But not only did we have now mass distribution as the basis of competition, we also had mass promotion as the basis of competition. And this is when Mad Men were born. And we still don't have a lot of personalization. It's all about getting the stuff out there and getting the message out there as broadly as we can. And then what happens? Around 1990, the basis of competition changes again. And now it's information. We're going to abstract the information on all of the things that we know how to make and distribute and promote, stick it up on this thing called the internet. And we start getting mass distribution of programs. And this is the era of what Michael Porter calls the third wave of IT. Around that 1950s, 60s time frame, the first wave of IT was the computing wave. This is where computers started to be used and individuals then could become more productive. Then around the 1900s or so, or 1990s or so, we enter into the second wave of IT. And this is where the internet emerges and we start becoming, the systems start becoming more productive. Companies and interactions amongst organizations start becoming more productive. But then around 2007, we enter into the third wave of IT, and we enter into the new change of the competitive basis. It's no longer about distribution. It's no longer about manufacturing. It's no longer about distribution. It's no longer about information management. In 2007, when Steve Jobs stood up and held that thing called the iPhone, he shepherded in a new era. And that new era was personalization at scale. Because now and this is what Forrester calls the age of the customer. We've now put in the hands of the consumer a supercomputer. The average phone has 3,000 times the entire processing power of the Apollo moon launch. We sent people to the moon and back for less computing power that's in all of your pockets. So we've entered into this new age. Now the basis of competition is, and what's starting to happen is how do we actually engage and start interacting with that individual at scale? And this is when we start bringing into that third wave of IT that Michael Porter was referring to. And that's the internet of everything. That's when everything starts becoming connected and part of the productive story. And so we have this slow changing basis over the last century or so where we move from manufacturing, which took about 60 years, to then gave away to distribution, and that took about 30 years to give away. Then we go and give that distribution competitive basis away to information management around the 1990s. That took 20 years. And then, that took 30 years. And then we went from 1990 to 2010, 20 years. So we see a rapidly changing era in the changes of our basis of our competition. Then what starts happening? Since things are changing, since the basis of competition, who here has customers or shoppers, right? We've got to stop changing that label, because the idea of customer, the idea of shopper, the idea of patient, the idea of voter, those are all states of being. We're actually individuals. We're people. And that's why we're referring to as connected individual. We've got to stop referring to that person as a consumer, as a shopper, because that's their state of being. When I am a connected individual, sometimes, yes, I'm shopping. Sometimes, yes, I'm consuming. Sometimes I'm a patient. Sometimes I'm a voter. But you need to understand that my sense of me at that point in time when I'm connected either at a digitally or physical base. Very, very significant changes in the way the market works and the way we're going to go and think about marketing in the future. So if that connected individual exists, then just doing simple math, what that means is we have to have connected brands. And then what that means is therefore we would then must have connected marketers. We must break down the silos, create seamless integration between our insight about that person and that individual so that we can take the science fiction of one-to-one marketing that started to emerge in the 90s, which really became possible with the advent of the iPhone, and now all of the other smart and connected devices are out there, and actually continue to evolve and make that a reality. So with that in mind, we go from connected brand, which is basically about physical and digital experiences. And American Airlines is a great connected brand, as are many of the travel companies, because they have a really great digital experience, they have a really good physical experience, I can interact when I'm traveling on the plane. Amazon is now becoming a really good digital and physical retailer as well. They started out with a tremendously great online digital experience, but just a few weeks ago they started announcing physical stores. And they're going to start rolling out about 400 physical stores. So you're going to start seeing that bridge happening there. Another, and probably the quintessential one that's really created this idea of the power of what it means to be a truly connected marketer is Starbucks. Because they've brought it all together. They've brought payment, and they've brought location, and they've brought ordering, and they've brought family, and they've brought personalization. And Starbucks is really that way station from one point to another as we go through our lives. Really, really important. But the next stage from being a connected marketer and a connected brand is to be a super connected brand. And that brings an emotion. Because if you really want to go back to that point of Cicero, feel my feelings, speak my words, it's about emotion. It's about knowing who I am, understanding those needs, and bringing emotion. And with that, you then become the super connected brand. And that's probably Apple. And Apple has this unbelievably good and solid connection with people. And love them or hate them or whatever you like, those people that are really bought into that brand have an emotional connection with that relationship. And that's what we're striving for when it comes to connected marketers. So this is interesting. We have the new basis of competition that's now emerging. And we believe that's going to come out at about 2020, when the majority of us are connected, the majority of us are now tied to and associated with sensors that are measuring and monitoring our lives. Most of these devices won't have screens. Only a few of the screens that will actually interact. The other devices are monitoring sensors. There are sleep sensors and are activity sensors. Even my dog has FitBark. So when I'm out and about, I can then connect with my dog and I can check in with her activity and see how many minutes of play she did today, how many minutes of walking did she do. It's all not just about connecting me to me, it's about connecting me to those things that I love and the people and the entities in my life that cherish me and that bring that emotion and that life to me. Did she give me permission to connect her? Yeah. She and our buddies, we're good. Yeah, exactly. And so the new basis of competition now entering into about 2020 is this idea of the connected individual. So think about that transition in time. It took 60 years, then it took, then it took roughly 30 years, then it took 20 years, and now the basis of competition is changing again in 10. So it's getting faster, we're seeing more things happen in the marketplace. So the connected marketer, what it means is, and I'm going to read this for you, it creates and develops and maintains a brand that understands and meets the needs of the connected individual. It's not about marketing to the customer. It's not marketing about the shopper. We've got to break those silos down. It's about marketing to people. It's about being people-centric, individual-centric, and that's where we need to go. So how does all this start? It first starts with a connection, and then it starts with collection. Then it starts with monitoring. Then it starts with analysis, and then synchronization, and then prediction and coaching. And if we think about this in the world of big data, it really looks something like this. It starts with connection. And then once we have connection, one device connecting to another, we start collecting data. From data, we can start doing reporting. From reporting, we can start doing analysis. From analysis, we get understanding. From understanding, we can then start making decisions. And then based on those decisions, we can take action. That's what's happening with big data. And let me give you some examples of some of that. Some of the higher level order opportunities is synchronization. Because we can get into all the other big data stuff, but let's just think of it and talk about the last two. So Nike and Spotify, for instance, have gotten together. So when I'm out on a run with my Nike app, Spotify Premium will sync up with me and then curate the tunes of the song to the synchronization of my run. If I want to run faster, they'll give me faster tempo songs. If I want to slow it down, they'll give me slower tempo songs. They'll do that dynamically for me and help synchronize that experience. Another example of that is, anybody watch Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi cable show? So Sci-Fi Escape is now in partnership with Philips Hue Connected Lights, and they are literally synchronizing the lighting in your room with the show. So when you're watching the show, the lights turn red and green, and they're actually, and this is what it means to be a connected marketer today. You're choreographing the physical world with the digital experience of the show. And literally, they have now lighting choreographers for the show in all of their shows. And we're starting to see more and more of that. Now, for some of you in the room, and again, the next one's going to be a little crass, and it truly is for the shock value of it. But you know where I'm going, Max. So I was at CES. I took Max to CES for the first time, and it was a total blast because I'm completely jaded on Vegas, and taking someone to Vegas for the first time was really fun. And so we're walking around the show, and I'm like, no way, I can't believe this. And we're sitting there, and we're talking to this French company. But it really hit home on how intimate and how important this idea of personalized synchronization for some people to give you joy in your life is important. And so there's this company out of France called B-Sensory, and they've created the connected vibrator. So when you're reading your romance book and you get to that really juicy section in the book, the vibrator kicks in and this one goes to 11. So it's really important to think about how we synchronize those experiences in real time. But there's more to that. We then get into predictive analytics as well. So for instance, Google is using predictive analytics with Google Now, so that if it knows that I'm going to be late for my meeting because it's watching the traffic, because it knows my meeting's in 20 minutes and it's on my calendar, and so it will remind me and tell me earlier, hey, you better leave now, otherwise you're going to be late. So this idea of predictive engagement and interaction is now happening right now as well. And then the final point is coaching. How do we actually coach people and help them through? One that's really important for me. So Christmas morning, I woke up totally uncomfortable and fat. And so and my business partner and I, in order to be connected marketers, Paul Berney, we decided we needed to first be connected individuals. So for Christmas, we bought each other a bunch of connected devices. So I got the Withing scale, and I already had the watch. And then based on the experience of those two devices, and them being astute connected marketers, they said, oh, by the way, go get MyFitnessPal, which is a great companion app to these two devices. So that way, it removes all of the friction. I get on the scale reports my weight and my body fat to the cloud. The watch reports my activity. The only activity I now need to do is food calorie counting. And I've been able to lose 20 pounds since Christmas by that simple idea. And it wasn't just about eating less. It was also about being coached by MyFitnessPal and the content. And they were watching the fact that there was like a week and a half or so when I plateaued on the weight. And it said, and all of a sudden I started getting articles. By the way, you will plateau on your weight, and this is what's going on. You might want, it gave me suggestions. Maybe you want to sleep a little bit more. Maybe you want to try this. I tried that coaching, and within days I started losing the weight again. So it's really interesting to see how that does. But I invited it into my life. And so when we're thinking about being the connected marketer, there's really 4 tasks that you need to do. You first need to build understanding of the individual that you're being of service to. You need to connect, engage, and help influence and encourage that individual. You need to remove the barriers to that encouragement. So in the case of like my weight loss regimen, it removed all of the friction except one, which was my food counting. But that's going to start getting resolved as well when you start getting smart plates and smart utensils and other types of services that actually, and I saw a few of these at CES as well, you wave the wand over it and it will tell you what the food is that's sitting there on that plate. Those are the things that are starting to come. And then you need to ultimately be of service to the individual and invite them. So building understanding is about being connected. It's about using these ideas to understand your audience. And you will start with the broad spray and play marketing first. As people start adopting and interacting with us, we'll be able to measure them through all these devices. Do what we're doing today. We'll start doing retargeting. We'll start getting those like-minded people, the similar people. And then those will slowly drive down to the ability for us to have that individual relationship with the person, and then we'll be able to create that understanding. We'll connect and engage and influence those people in the example like I just said. And then we'll start removing the barriers. And these barriers are really important to start removing because if we're not careful, the current status quo of marketing that we have right now is going to go away. And it already is going away. People, I'm going to stop the consumer word, people are already installing ad blockers. About 26 to 41% of the millennial audience right now about 200 million people have installed ad blockers. Our message isn't going to get out there because we're sick of the messages not being related to me. We're also seeing other things like data privacy laws emerging and consumer fatigue and channel proliferation, and it's getting harder and harder for us to reach us. But when you actually do provide services like the MyFitnessPal, Apple Watch, and the Withing Scale relationship, those broke all the barriers for me to open up and to provide success. And that really brings the last thing is that brands must be of service. You are a servant to the customer. And this is not a new idea. Theodore Levitt, and you probably all read this in college, but you don't remember it. It was a paper by Theodore Levitt called Marketing Myopathy. And the paper opens up with, the railroad industries are failing because they think they're in the railroad industry. What they're actually in is in the transportation industry. right? The same, have you ever heard about the term of not being Kodak'd, right? So Kodak fails when Kodak goes bankrupt. The same week Kodak went bankrupt because they thought they were in the film industry, one of their leading competitors, Fujifilm, actually announced a new patent, and they now have record profits and record growth, because what they realized is they're not in the film industry. What do you think, what industry was Fuji in? No. What else? No, it's something else. Pictures, what else? Okay. So if going back to the railroad industry versus transportation, they realized that they were in the light management industry. Their chemistry, they understood how to manipulate and manage light to our benefit. That was their core competency and value that they could deliver to us. So now they have the #1 selling face cream in Asia, because they took their light management capabilities and they have an entire healthcare business that didn't exist until they understood that they were actually in the light management business. So that's what it means to be of service. That's what it means to turn around and not be focused on what I can sell you, but what I can do for you. And when you do that, you become a trusted entity, and you can sell somebody anything, because you are because they want to do business with you, because they trust you and they think that and they trust that you will take care of them, not just know it. So building your understanding, you do research, you access data, you do the data science on that, you do behavioral economics, and most importantly, you ask people. And it's not just about permission, privacy, notice, choice, and control. It's about truly asking to be part of that person's life and to be of service to them. And you start doing this through journey mapping exercises. How do you check for understanding? Social listening, sentiment analysis, and analytics, and ask again and share back with them. Because one of the things we're going to start seeing in this new world as we move into the marketplace is consumers are going to get, excuse me, I did it again. I too am trying to get this out of my lingo. People are getting tired of thinking that you're abusing and using their data. You need to give that data back to them. It needs to be part of their lexicon. Lets them port it around to all of their relationships. And that's a whole other conversation that we could have at a later time that I've been researching for about 10 years. But that's really going to be the basis of what's happening with that. And so how do you connect and engage? You realize that this journey that we're on with this, that people are on with this, is not linear. It doesn't follow the ADA model of awareness, interest, and desire, which was actually developed over 130 years ago by a guy named St. Elmo Lewis, the purchase funnel. That's been completely blown up. People will be where they are, when they are, and it's now about the individual's journey, not the consumer journey. It's about where they want to go and the navigation that they're taking. It's about directing shopping, using your tools to help coach and advise and direct and aid me when I'm in my shopping or consumption experience. It's about ensuring that their relationships are more personalized, that we're leveraging all of the marketing technology that we have to bear, that combining that with our processes and people to be successful. And then it's about segmenting and going from segments to personas to actually marketing to the profile. And what's going to drive a lot of that is this idea of omni-channel and channel agnostic solutions. Omni-channel is really a byproduct of effective multi-channel marketing. You don't make an omni-channel experience. It's a byproduct of your using all of the tools and choreographing those in such a way that creates the trusted experience that people are beginning to expect and demand from you. And so when you're starting to think about that, don't think about awareness, interest, desire, and action. Don't think about your purchase funnel. Put it in their language. People aren't aware, they find. You want to think about how they choose, how they try, how they buy, and then ultimately how they favor. And so if you start thinking it from the context of their needs and what they want to do, you have a better chance of winning. How do you break down these barriers? Recognize that you have the connectivity paradox. We simultaneously both want more and less connection. We want more, but are overwhelmed by it. And we can know anything and struggling with this information overload. So brands must strive to simplify those experiences. Just again, like the experience I had with losing weight over the last couple of months. Removed all of the friction except for one activity. And the beautiful thing about that one activity is it gave me the most important tool of all, was mindfulness. It removed everything else so that I could pay attention to when I was sticking something in my mouth or not. And I got to make the choice. Was that going to be worth it or not? It removed everything else so that I could be mindful for the behaviors that were going to be most important for me. And so one of the things that we need to remember is it's not all about data. It's about our understanding and insight. and one of the key insights that we need to get is when we think about all of these connected devices and all of these services, Cisco predicts that all of the connectivity and connected devices and the Internet of Everything, and somewhere between this 50 to 75 to 100 million connected devices that are going to be in the world over the next 10 years, that will create $19 trillion in net economic value to global society. Right? Because it's going to remove friction, it's going to create improved health, it's going to healthcare, improved education, improved inner city transportation. It's going to create better our ability to engage and interact with consumers more. But what's really with people more. But what's really interesting is we have a lot of work to do, because research is saying, well, society is going to get a positive ROI out of it. Governments are going to get a positive ROI out of it. Companies will get a positive ROI. But the research is starting to say too, well, individuals, people are going to get a negative ROI. It's really interesting. It's a Business Insider research study. I'll be happy to share with you a link when you see it. And they tell you why we think it's going to be negative. Because they're only measuring it economically. They're only measuring it on the models that are over 100 years old, these ideas of scale and how much money are we going to save or make. And they admittedly say, we can't measure whether connectivity for people is going to be positive. We can't report on that because we have an inability to actually measure the impact of happiness and what it means for individuals to be happy. We don't know how to quantify that. And so one of the things that we need to do is learn how do we quantify happy? I mean, it makes me really happy to be able to have that relationship with my dog and know she's healthy and know she's being taken care of, and to be able to FaceTime into my daughter's first basketball game when I'm gone on a trip. But our society and our economics and the way we run the society and we run our businesses doesn't quantify the value of that happiness. And we need to do that if we truly want to be reaping all of the benefits here. So with that in mind, we're announcing today, this is actually the first time we've ever publicly given the talk on the Connected Marketer. We've launched this new business. We're going to be launching out the website at the end of next week, trademark the term. We're going to be going out there with the process. And we're inviting all of you to be part of this exploration for us. And not for us, but with us. Because we don't know it all. We don't know all of the industries. We don't know all of the capabilities and technologies. It's going to take a village. It's going to take all of us to help quantify, identify that element of happiness. What tools do we need to be able to make that happen? How do we do this? I invite all of you to join me for the Connected Marketer workshop at the Mobile X Festival. And we can sit there and discuss this. And we can do it in an unconference model, and we can build the frameworks and the understandings of how do we actually build the future that we want to be happy in and to survive in, and to not just survive, but thrive. So with that in mind, I invite all of you to be part of this conversation and to think about this future that we're entering into. And it's super exciting, and it's starting right now. So with that in mind, here's my email address. There's my business partner, Paul Berney. You can reach out to any of us anytime. Grab Max's card later, and thank you very much. So questions, ideas, comments? Where do you think this is going to go?
Is Connected Marketer live right now?
Yeah, there's some pages there. We're going to deploy it out with the branding and all that in about a week.
And so the idea is we're going to teach about the connected consumer in order to help marketers.
Well, both. We're going to talk about the connected individual, think about the needs of the connected individual, and then as marketers, understand how do we break down these barriers? How do we establish these connections? How do we put those layers and stratifications of what it means to be connected? How do we develop these synchronized experiences in a way that the individual is truly inviting it in because they see value? But most importantly, how do we protect them in this process? The little side note thing that I was talking about earlier, and this is really important, is right now, the way we all look at big data, the way we all look at data for the most part, and most marketers are fairly schizophrenic with this. There's some interesting research. When you research marketers and say, do you love data? We're all like, yes, I love data. It's great. It's the only way I can do my job. It's more the merrier. Let's bring it in. And then when you survey those exact same people, but ask them as people, do you love data? They're like, oh no, I don't like it at all, right? We've got to get over that. We've got to be able, and the way to get over that is to give the data back to the people. And there's an emerging process that's called personal data stores, vendor relationship management. There's a number of models that have been emerging that actually started in the early days around 1973 or 4. We can look at the literature reviews. But what's going to start happening is we're going to start evolving models where people own their data. And there will be a pivotal point where companies will start realizing the economics of hosting, managing, curating, appending, and the liability of holding onto that data will be greater than simply paying and gaining access from it to you when I need it to be able to be of service to you. Because we all have to learn that we can no longer be using the data and the power of what it means to be a connected marketer in this world in service of the connected individual for our benefit. We should not be making money from data, but from the benefits of from the consumer, but only for the benefit of them. And we don't really do that well in the industry right now. So there's going to be some really fundamental shifts in every layer of how we go about doing this. Yeah.
Have you looked into much of how data privacy works for the individuals in the EU? Because I used to run an agency in London. And
Yeah.
Data privacy is a human right in Europe.
It is. It is.
It's not in this country, and there's obvious reasons why in this country versus the EU. And we pride ourselves on our Bill of Rights, but it hasn't kept up to where to common times.
Yeah, I've been actually looking at it quite a bit, but you're right. It's a human right over there. It's not necessarily a human right here, but it is our right.
Yeah, but
So,
you got the Tim Cook lawsuit that's happening right this second.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But let me paint a story here. So, there's a lot of. So one of the big things that we need to overhaul completely is our legal system, when it comes to privacy, when it comes to management and personal ownership of our data. So here's a trivia question for you. Chief Justice gets together and says, there is a new technology that has emerged into the marketplace, a new innovative technology that has emerged into the marketplace. And this technology has the potential to significantly infringe on people's privacy, so much so that we have the right to be left alone. What is the year? What is the technology? And what media was that technology interacting with that stimulated and required our justice system to take action? Telephone? What year? No, you don't. You just, no way.
1912 radio waves.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. It was 1890. It was Warren and Brady's, and it was the camera. Because you now could have a picture instantaneously taken of you, and it could show up in the newspaper tomorrow. And that wasn't okay. Because of that, we started to infringe on people's privacy. We have a right to be left alone. And then if you look at Alan Weston's definitions of privacy, which is kind of the foundational definition that we all generally accept, at least academically, of what privacy means, what it means is I have the right to choose the timing, the mode, and who gains access to information about me. We have to put those controls back into the system, and the only way we're going to do that is through the model of connected marketing. Yeah. So I know the laws totally different. We've got to change it. Anybody else? Exciting times. It's going to change everything. Actually in Atlanta, did you just the CEO of AT&T? Did you hear what he said last week? Publicly came out in one of his keynotes and said, if you are not learning 5 to 10 hours a week, probably more often than not on your own time, you will become completely irrelevant and not a contributor to the society. We're all going to have to retool. And it's all going to be about education and learning. You spent 2 days learning this process. And so we all really need to understand and reevaluate and consider how we're going to move into this next generation. Yeah, you had a question, Phil?
I like the notion of a coach at the very end of this, so I'm curious what other metaphors you might have thought of as you think about the implications and the transition from what we do as marketers today to what we have to do in the future.
I've thought a lot about it. I don't necessarily know if I need to put it into words. I mean, I need to work with you more on that. You're my framework guy. I do a lot of projects on the side with Phil, so it's really, if you ever need anybody to mine data and really create insight and develop frameworks like anybody else, Phil's one of the best I've seen in the industry. Absolutely fantastic. It's gonna. That's why we're putting it out there. It's gonna take. We all need to contribute to this. We all need to write stories. We can't own this. We all have to contribute. And so I really encourage you to throw some stories.
I think it's fundamental, and I love the idea of a coach. But if you think about most of our businesses today, they have sort of a myopic view of not only their consumers, but their role in consumers' lives. And typically it's to drive traffic, sell product, get in front of.
Yeah, that's got it. You've got, yeah. Keep going.
So if you think about that shift from where we are today to what you've described here, I think metaphors might help companies begin to think, if I were to actually serve, I love that term as well, as a coach, what are the implications? What would we do?
Well, let me give you a couple examples of that. So one example, okay, thanks for clarifying again. Some ideas on that is we have to have the willpower and the capability to not, and the strength to say, to occasionally step away from out of our own shoes and into the person's shoes. That's what Cicero is telling us. We need to not think about, oh man, and this is really scary, especially when you need the revenue, to focus on selling something. We need to spend time and focus on what does that person need? What do they holistically need? What are their challenges in their life? The cores of journey mapping, which we've all kind of been seeing in the internet over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, like seems to be the thing that's all being emailed around. It first and foremost starts with what tasks are people trying to accomplish? What do they need to get done in life? And then to do that analysis, what are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's their emotional states? You need to understand all of that before you even think about where can I help in that process. Once you've dissected that and you've understood those various points and opportunities, you then can intersect yourself in and raise your hand and say, I can help. And the beautiful thing about that, once you truly understand that person, you can initially start developing personas until you actually have the opportunity to have been invited to have direct communication with that individual. Once you truly understand that, what's changed in the world of mobile, the inflection point, prior to mobile, the marketing model was AAU. It was attitude, awareness, attitude, and usage. I'd spray and play to get awareness. I'd then kind of drive attitude, and then ultimately I'd want them to get usage of my product. When these devices, these smartphones came in, when the watches came in, what started to happen is now individuals can express need, and our job is to now be be as relevant as possible at that time of expressed need. The only way we're going to be relevant as possible at that time of expressed need is if we truly understand the implications of what it means to be engaging and interacting with somebody. Okay? And one of the other tricks I would have for that is go back to science fiction. So one of the questions I have for you, when was the first phone invented? Anybody have an idea? Yeah, 1890. What? No, that.
Way before Alexander Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, the mobile phone, first mobile phone.
Oh, first mobile.
Yeah, first mobile phone. When was the first mobile phone invented?
First phone.
Yeah, first mobile phone. When was the first mobile phone invented? Sorry.
78?
Yeah. Well, the first hardware was 78, first kind of hit the market in 83. But the first time it kind of got into our psyche was 1946 with Dick Tracy cartoons. Right? This idea that I could talk on the watch. And now we have the reality. And then in 1966, you had Captain Spock and Bones and McCoy and Chekhov running around the universe in Star Trek with their communicator and talking on the phone. It was that show, Martin, the engineer from Motorola that invented the mobile phone and the networks, he said he was watching Star Trek and said, I want to build that. So really, where a lot of this is going to come from is our science fiction and our creativity and our imagination and our desires to be of service. And once we get that inspiration, we then can build anything. So it's really got to start with the inspiration and that's this idea that we can help it be of service to people. Yeah.
To your point, to that what you said about Cicero, think my thoughts.
Yeah, if you want to persuade me, you must think my thoughts, feel my feelings, and speak my words. I mean, in other words, put yourself in my shoes.
Correct. And as far as getting feedback from the consumer or from people that dictates the content that you're going to provide them, how do you track when folks' emotions and their states of mind change? For example, you used a weight loss example. So let's say if someone's initial reason for going on a diet or losing weight is health, it's for health reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But after they lose 15, 20 pounds, look in the mirror, now that shift towards vanity reasons. So how do you adjust that content?
Or maintenance. I'm okay now, or that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just maybe it doesn't.
So how do you track that changes state of mind, with the data to make sure that you're giving them relevant content now that they're
Well, a part of that, and this is where the personal data store concepts come into play too. There's some great research done by Catherine Broman and team and Piccoli and such in the early 2000s, where they said one of the fundamental issues and a part of the other reason why we have to move to the model of allowing people to share their data rather than us trying to mine it all. And remember, it's not just manual. A lot of it's going to be, I'm giving you access to my watch. I've given you access to my behavior. So a lot of this is going to be automated. There are data gaps in the industry. For example, my relationship between me and a company, there's gaps in that relationship. Not necessarily all of the data is flowing there. Then there are gaps between me and an industry. I fly on American, but I don't fly on Delta. So Delta treats me terribly, even though I'm doing nearly 200,000 miles a year on American. Right? If I could share my industry-wide travel, then the industry could be treating me properly. And then the next level is kind of the inference gap. And this is where preference comes into play. I have to be able to communicate and signal up into the market as a whole, these are my needs, these are my interests, these are my emotions. Some of that's going to come about of what Facebook announced on Tuesday. Did you guys hear about this? Yeah, they still have the like button, but they've now added emoticons. I can say if I love it or it makes me sad. I can have some of those layers. You're going to, excuse me? Yeah, or surprise, right? You're also going to see other elements too, where some of the neurotechnologies or some of the visual things can actually monitor your facial recognition when you're sitting in front of the computer, and will determine stress levels there. So that's going to be some of the detail. If I'm driving in the car like this, it's going to tell the car what's going on, and that data will be able to be shared through the data store. So there's going to be something like that. What's really important, and one of the stages towards becoming a connected marketer, is to realize that we're going to, and this is both exciting and scary for many of us, because there's really three types of marketers out there. There is the campaign marketer, that's the person creating all of the campaigns. There's the sales marketer, that's the person selling the media and the programs. And then there's the value creator. Someone that focuses on the business problems, on the needs of the individual, and then strives to solve those issues. That's where we all need to strive from, or where we all need to go. And it's going to be really challenging, because as we think about our jobs, many of us spend most of our career in that kind of the sales creation mode. But as we go into the world of connected marketer, those jobs are gone. That's why I'm saying that we need to be educated. Because what's going to happen is that, truly Skynet in that regard takes over. Because machine learning and artificial intelligence will create automated individual communications at scale. In order to be an effective connected marketer, no longer will we do batch and blast emailing at 9 a.m. What we will do is we will take our insight and understanding to the individual. We create creative and content that we understand and know that the individual needs. We'll create core insights that we will then feed into the systems, and then based on our preferences that come from our instructions to the cloud, to the systems through our data source, based on those instructions, the machine learning and the artificial intelligence systems will choose with me the mode, the timing, and when and how. So I might get a text message at 3 in the afternoon. You might get a text message, email at 9:30 in the morning. You might get a phone call, right? And the content will be determined by your individual needs, not by mine. And in the mobile marketing world, and I'm sure Vert's doing quite a bit of work of this, it's about doing deep linking into the page that's relevant to me. So if I'm interested in pants, I'm going to be deep linked into the pants, where you might get a skirt or a dress.
You always want to be deep linked into the pants.
Into the pants, of course, yeah. Yeah, right? But that's the kind of idea, right? You're taking to the, like Quixie's doing, that was pretty funny. So you made me lose my train of thought there. Yeah. So by Quixie, there are companies like Quixie that are really enabling that too, to really get to that point, so that the information and the engagement and the experience that I'm getting is unique to me. And you're starting to see more and more of this. There's companies like in the UK, you go into their retail store, there are no prices. The only way to get a price on the product is to scan that product, and the price that comes back is going to be the price based on my relationship with that company and the information I've shared with them and the information they've shared with me, and then I get my price. So we're going to really, truly, this is going to change everything. And it's starting right now.
Now, is that removing friction or adding friction?
In that regard? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
This is just a little off the wall, because today I was reading about how the economic recovery has not happened for the lower echelon of society. And I mean, I'm just finding this really fascinating. And so what kind of implications might there be for the people who are not connected?
That's such a great question. I'm a huge reader, and I read a bunch of other stuff. So here's some homework for you all. You have to go read The Circle by David Eggers. I'll get to your question more directly in just a second. You have to read The Circle by David Eggers. It lets you see a world, what a world might look like when all of the information is publicly shared and owned by a corporation, not by individuals. It's absolutely frightening. Right. There are other books out there like the Truth Machine by Halperin. Imagine a world where with 100% certainty you know if somebody's telling the truth. And we will have that. The watch. Because, did you know that Under Armour within the next 5 years has committed to having all of their products connected? Right? So the shirts and the socks and the shoes and all of that. And they have sensors in them that will be measuring your sweat and recommending that, hey, you better go get a Gatorade because you just worked out really hard. It will actually be helping you with the body. So going back to, and this is another book, it's called The Unincorporated Man. This idea is this rich guy put himself into a cryogenic sleep, woke up 300 years later. And when he woke up into a world, because virtual reality and augmented reality brought the world near to nuclear destruction. It's a really interesting premise. They woke up into a world where upon birth, everyone is incorporated. And you own 25% of you. You own 20% of you, your family owns 25% of you, the government owns 5% of you, and 50% of you is brokered to the open market.
Wait, how much does your wife own?
Right? And so part of the answer is, and that could be the model for an environment like that. But ultimately, and who knows, but one of the things that we need to be careful of, and there were some jokes floating around on the internet about this about 18, 24 months ago. If you're not paying for it, you're the product. Right? So that's part of the concern. That if I'm using all of these free services and these free maps and these social media projects, the contract I'm signing with the company that's giving me that free tool is that I'm the product. You get to take all of my information and you get to monetize me. So one of the things that we may end up seeing in the future, in this world of the connected marketer, is that the only luxury good in the future is privacy. If you can pay for your privacy, if you can own your data, you'll have it. Otherwise, you're the product. And that's why I kind of raise, and I don't know if I want to live in that world. Right? So I'm challenging us all now. We have time to change it. We have time to have these conversations. I think what this, a lot of these services are bringing, they're bringing tremendous value. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing anything that we're doing in industry right now and the marketing. I'm just, because I think it has tremendous value. I use Facebook. I use all of these services. I use the scale. I love them. They're creating tremendous value. I want to find out how to quantify the happiness so I can measure that back up into the market. I think it's all really important. I'm looking for the day, though, when I can feed my own preferences up into the programmatic ad networks, not have it presumed, so I can truly have accurate advertising come to me, so I can truly have opportunities to explore things that truly are meaningful and beneficial to me, so I can build that relationship with the company. So there are huge opportunities for us. So I'm not trying to paint any negativity of what's happening in the market now. I just think we have an opportunity to reshape it now before it gets ahead of us.
On that note, not trying to paint any negativity, do you think there is a market for that? And is it possible that whereas in the future someone could say, okay, I want all my purchase history just wiped, so that person just wipes it.
Yeah. No, I don't think the idea of wiping is ever done. I mean, that if you're a digital being living in this world, your data's there. It's in a network. It's stored, and partly you need it to be there so you can have your healthcare data is already there. Your financial data is already there. You will never truly be wiped. We are digital now. What I think is we're going to have increasing layers of control. Saw some really interesting things about. And you might want to start doing some research on this. God, I wish I can remember the acronym. It's CCN, Connected Network something. The internet is changing. So when the internet was created, the presumption was if this computer's here and this computer's here and someone connects them, that relationship must be trusted. That was the presumption at the time. Soon we found it was not so. It wasn't necessarily the greatest idea so what we've been doing with the internet ever since its evolution was stacking more and more security layers and all of that to kind of protect that trusted boundary around those programs. Next generation Infonet infrastructure is going to presume the network itself doesn't need to be trusted, that it can be open, and that each individual packet of data will independently secure and independently identifiable. And then we will hold the keys to that data that's in the network. So truly then when that happens, my name and my records and my information are under my control and or those that I share it with. And it will be instantaneously findable and we'll be able to know where it is. So there's again, this is a decade, 20, maybe 20-year long process. So this is the first day in a journey that we're all going to be taking together over the next, over the remainders of our career. Anybody else?
Well, there's no more.
Thank you very much.
Really quickly, would love to have you plug mCordis. Give us
Oh, the sales pitch? Yeah.
give us a sales pitch.
Yeah, so long story short, I mean, we're totally focused on this, but at the end of fundamentally, we're an educational company. So if you look out there in the marketplace today, based on research, 82% of marketers have not been formally trained in the job of digital connected marketing, especially connected marketing, because it's brand new stuff. Our lack of digital training, myself included in that, our lack of digital training is creating a $1.3 trillion productivity gap in the United States alone. So mCordis exists to close that gap. For us to be able to create models and education, to be able to create greater efficiency for both the brands and the marketers that are serving those people, as well as for the vendors and the MarTech providers that are helping serve the brands accomplish their mission of being of service to the people. How do we go about doing that? For the brands, Cordis is Latin for of the heart. So it's the idea of helping put mobile in the heart of marketing. And again, mobile is connectivity is digital. Digital is social, mobile is digital. It's all the same thing. At the end of the day, it's just marketing. And we started with mobile, so that's where it is. And then for the brands, we help with proposition development, we help develop educational modules, and we help curate through what we call educational marketing so that you can truly create your resources and leverage your resources so that you can have the utmost productivity within your business. So at the top tier 3 layer client who doesn't know anything about this, we help you provide online educational materials. For that kind of tier 2 client that has specific questions around, well, what do I do with social? How do I combine social with other activities? They have very specific strategic and tactical questions of how do I do something. That's another type of educational programming. And then by doing that kind of educational marketing activity, that will leave your tier 2 client or tier 1 client who only has one question. Why you versus your competitor? And so now your salespeople and your enterprises can be only having to deal with answering that question. And then we'll help you in a neutral and an advisorial way address the educational needs. And that's why we exist. To help put mobile and digital and connectivity at the heart of the brand's strategy, and to help the vendors be able to service the brand in a way that the brand understands. Yeah. So we're here to help, and we'd love to build some modules, like we're going to be talking to Stable Kernel about helping build educational maps. I'd love to talk to Vert about how do we build some social media and integration and digital integration strategies and get that marketplace out there. Because the other thing too is, you remember the movie Say Anything with John Cusack, and he's sitting there at the dinner table with his girlfriend's dad, and he's like, I don't want to buy, make, or sell anything. I don't buy anything. I don't buy, make, or sell hardware. I don't compete with you. My job is to help you think and to help you put these models together and do it in a neutral way, to help create insights with leaders like Phil, where we can truly dig in there and get the insights about what's going on and then shape that kind of raw rock that we pull out of the mountain and turn it into a gorgeous diamond so that we can actually be of service to people. That's what we do.
Michael, can I ask a question, one last question?
Sure.
Maybe? I'm curious whether you see any clients that you think are currently capable or perhaps positioned to realize the vision you've described here, because most of the companies that I see are pretty narrowly focused, and this is a broad, ambitious transition that has to take place. So obviously, you're hopeful and you're helping them, but what do you see as the biggest challenge, and are there any companies, in addition to Starbucks, that you think are poised to make the leap?
I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that question. I think in some regards, all of us are. I mean, part of it is we take a step to where we're at. I mean, you're all there and ready. If you are selling a product and people are buying it, you're there. It's just now a matter of kind of switching it and modifying and refining a little bit. We're not looking for draconian change and morphing into something else overnight. This is a slow process where we curate the relationships and we evolve and we adjust. and we think it through. It's just, and ultimately, in the first step in this process is to really focus on the needs of that individual you serve. Understand their needs, understand their feelings, understand what they're trying to accomplish, understand their tasks. Find those elements and those events in their lives where you can meet them and be of service. And that's really where it starts. And we're all there. So I think Starbucks has been kind of the North Star for a lot of this, but it doesn't mean that we have to have the billions of dollars that they have. We all can do it, and it doesn't necessarily have to take money. It just has to take a desire to think about the world in a slightly different way. Yeah, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this, everybody. Thanks.